Next up is Tenille Ceasar. She'll be speaking with the assistance of her dog, Frosty, and she's going to be sharing some of the details about what it's like to live with a special needs pet. Adopting Frosty over 2 years ago helped Tenille realize a new passion and prompted her to join the board of directors for Animal Lifeline of Iowa, which is a special needs, no-kill animal shelter located right here in the metro area. Tenille and Frosty will also be around during the break if you're interested in meeting them. So here's Tenille.
Is that live?
I think it's live. Well, I think I need both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you'll have to use that one. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.
Yes. Okay, so as he mentioned, my name's Tenille Ceasar, and I actually brought along both of my dogs tonight. Frosty is up front here with Kim, and before I get started, I'll just make a comment that my slides are really more of an ode to Frosty, so they're really more of a backdrop, and I hope they bring you some amusement while I tell you our story. So whenever I tell people that I have a deaf dog, usually the first question they ask is, how did you end up with one? And to be honest, it wasn't anything to do with an accident or anything we really planned. It started with our other dog, Portia. I don't know if you know anything about boxers, but they have a pretty incredible energy. And essentially, somehow I convinced my husband that in order to deal with that boxer energy that we had in our house, we should really double it. So I found myself checking out online rescues, and there were a lot of white boxers there. This led me to do a little bit more research, and I found that a lot of them were deaf. Interestingly enough, even though they seem like they wouldn't be related at all, the skin pigment of a dog is oftentimes related to their ability to hear. And the reason is because they have cells inside of their ears, and sometimes those cells can be unpigmented. That happens a lot with dogs that are primarily white, not necessarily albino, but primarily white. And unfortunately, those unpigmented cells on the inner ear canal will die off within the first few weeks of the dog's life, and they'll lose their hearing and become deaf. This is called congenital deafness. So a little fun fact there. The next question I typically get when I talk about having a deaf dog is, how do you train a dog that can't hear you, give them commands? And interestingly enough, it's incredibly easy. A lot of people who have dogs that can hear use hand signals to train their dogs, and we were some of those people. So we were already accustomed to using our hands when talking to Portia or, instructing her. And so doing that with Frosty was pretty instinctual for us. The other thing I like to remind people is that dogs are actually pretty smart animals. I read somewhere that they were typically as smart as a 2-year-old, so that's pretty smart. But where I'm going with that is that, Frosty probably doesn't realize that he doesn't have this sense because he lost it when he was only a couple weeks old, and he knows how he communicates with us. So what I mean is he's really attentive at keeping an eye on us and knowing that he needs to look for cues from us. And that makes it pretty easy to get his attention, keep his attention, and ask him to do whatever it is we're asking him to do. You might see here, he's a leaner. So he might not feel the need to actually look at you or see you, but if he's not going to be looking at you, he's going to be leaning against you. So if you decide to go somewhere or leave him, he's going to notice. We've also noticed he has some other ways of getting around this. He's pretty sensitive to vibrations on the floor and also any shifts in the light. Just a few minutes ago, he was looking like he was about ready to pounce on something, and I think it was just a shadow. But when we let him out at night, sometimes we flicker our porch light at him to get his attention, or if he is about to do something he shouldn't, like you may have noticed the light bulb thing, we might stomp on the floor to get him to stop because we cannot get to him fast enough. So just some interesting things. It's actually really easy to care for him. I would argue probably easier than Portia in a lot of cases because he has half of the distractions that she has. When we go for a walk, she hears and sees everything, and just sitting in this room, she's turning her head every which way because she's overstimulated. And he's just like, I'm going to look at that come and go sign. So, pretty mellow and easy to manage. The other thing that I kind of want to wrap up with, and I think we're going to be getting to some different pictures pretty soon, are when he mentioned earlier my affiliation with Animal Lifeline of Iowa. So something that I came to realize by having Frosty and learning about his deficiency, if you will, was that there are a lot of animals with special needs. And even though it may seem intimidating, it's really not a difficult thing to live with them. So here we go. We have, I have a cat here. This is actually a cat that is at Animal Lifeline of Iowa. Animal Lifeline is a shelter based out of, I think it's located on Southeast Street and Southeast 14th, excuse me. And what they do is they specialize in animals that have special needs. So sometimes that includes deaf, like Frosty, or maybe blind or injured. Maybe they have allergies. In some cases, they're elderly. In other cases, they're just pregnant or nursing, and they have a bunch of puppies or kittens that have nothing wrong with them. And so it's become really passionate, or it's become quite a passion for me, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with Frosty. As far as having him as part of our family, like I said, I barely even notice that he can't hear us. And so it's really heartbreaking for me to realize that if he had ended up at the wrong shelter, he would have been euthanized. And so I think the intent of tonight is to just sort of leave you all with the suggestion and encourage you, if you're going to add an animal to your family, a cat or a dog, I hope that you would consider a special needs animal. In our case, like I said, Frosty was no extra work at all, sometimes easier than Portia. So, and he's really a joy to have. He's a special guy. So that's all.